All right, Joseph, good morning. Let us begin by thanking all of our sponsors for this morning. Sure to thank our annual TALMUD TORAH sponsor for Tavshin Pei, the Tilson Mishpacha, for dedicating all the Shemar Drashos this year, wishing a tremendous mazel tov to Naftali's friend Benjamin Wohl on the occasion of the marriage of his dear son Tuvia to Shira. May the beautiful couple of Meretz Hashem experience tremendous nachas and hatzlacha and provide that to all of Klal Yisroel as well. Our TALMUD TORAH sponsors for the month of Nissan, Kathy Pollack, in celebration of the Nissan birthdays of his wife Kathy and granddaughter Tikveh, Esther. Our anonymous TALMUD TORAH sponsorship in the zechus of simchos for all of our children, and for Nissan to be the month of geula, sheleima for Klal Yisroel. And Avraham Shaindy Kelman, in memory of Avram's mother, Sara Braina bas Yehoshua Heschel zichron levracha. Our week of learning sponsors, Paul and Kathy Pollack, commemoration of the yahrzeit of Paul's father, Shmuel ben Zechariah, and Tziril bas Reb Dov, and Steve Galaskov, in honor of all of the bracha that Hashem has provided for me, Jordana, and our families. Beautiful, beautiful. Shkoyach. Absolutely beautiful. Also with that, let us begin. And tremendous shkoyach to Rabbi Daniel and the Chazara Chabura. I think a record crowd this morning. Baruch Hashem. Absolutely. I'm sorry?
We want to beat the name, call the name of Allah.
That's right, call the name of Allah. Good. All right, Baruch Hashem. They're definitely better rested. But really, and Rosa Shkoyach to the Chabura again. I know it only ends up being a couple of minutes, but the truth is, remember, to get a couple of minutes of chazara and to walk away with reinforcing some of the solas of the daf. Obviously, you'd need probably a full hour to mamish do, but what you can accomplish in 10 minutes is incredible, and a tremendous shkach to all those who push themselves even just a little bit more. Incredible. Well, so today's daf is Kuvav 106. We are picking up Emir Hashem on Kuf Yamid Beis. We have a lot to do today. We are picking up Emir Hashem 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, about 11 lines up from before it gets wide. So remember again, we ended off yesterday's daf with this fascinating sugya about how exactly was Bilam able to curse Klal Yisroel. And the Gemara explained that essentially, Bilam understood the exact moment that the Ribono Shel Olam gets angry. And he understood that if he was able to curse Klal Yisroel during that moment, that it would have catastrophic consequences for Klal Yisroel. A miracle occurred, and that entire time that Bilam was trying to curse Klal Yisroel, that entire time, Hashkadosh Baruch Hu never got angry. So we're picking up on that. The Gemara says that's why. So this is what Bilam said to Balak. Balak, what do you want from me? I can't curse Klal Yisrael if Hakadosh Baruch Hu doesn't want to curse them. Right? There's nothing for me to do if I can't curse the people. El Za'im b'chol yom, the Kamazamo. So the Ribono Shel Olam gets angry every day. And how long does the anger of the Ribono Shel Olam last for? So the Gemara says, Rega. It's just a few moments. Or really I should say, just a moment. A singular moment that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gets angry at. And if you catch God in that moment, then terrible catastrophic consequences for Klal Yisroel. Shneimar, Kirega biapo, Chayim birtzono. Ibaisem, or the other possibilities. So we'll say, the Lush is Kirega ba'apo. It's only a moment. It's only a moment of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's wrath. The other possibility is Ibaisema, Lech ani, Boba chadarecha. The Navi says, my nation, go into your hiding place. Usigar dalascha ba'adecha. Close the door behind you. Chabi kimat rega. Hide yourself literally again for just a moment. Ad ya'avar za'am. Until the divine wrath passes by. So again, same idea. Chabi kimat rega. Just wait a moment until the divine wrath passes. So the Gemara says, good. Emas rasas. When does this moment of anger occur? When does Kadosh Baruch Hu get angry? So the Gemara says, Betlas shai kamaisa, in the first 3 hours of the morning, the early morning, ki chivra karbalta de tarnagolta. Ultimately, again, when the feathers of the rooster are totally white. So the Gemara says, Kol shaita v'shaita dami chivarta. The feathers of a rooster are always right. So the Gemara says, Kol shaita v'shaita is beisur kisumki. Hayishaita less beisur kisumki. So apparently, again, throughout the day, it might be white, but there are small streaks of red in these early hours of the morning. So it's totally white. Okay, so we'll say a story. Incredible story here. There was a min. You've seen this story before. Min is a heretic. There was a heretic who lived in the neighborhood of Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi. Right? And I will say again, now when it says a min, this is obviously an incredibly antagonistic person. To have a commemoration, and he just gave Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi just a very difficult time. Very difficult time. So what happened? This is incredible. So Rabbi Shmuel Levi had an idea. Yom echad nakit tarnagolta va'asole bekare va'osif va'amar kimata ushaita ilache. So Rabbi Shmuel Levi has a great idea. He's like, I'm done with this guy. I'm done with this guy. So what do you do when you're done with a guy? You get a rooster, you tie it to your bed, right? You wait until the moment that you see that the feather totally turns white, and you curse him. And that way, again, you are tapping into that moment of divine wrath, and you can be done with this guy. Now, listen, I just want to point out, obviously, the fact that Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi is going to this length, there's two things happening over here. Number one, the guy is a min, right? So in other words, there's a theological issue, right? That's number one. Number two, obviously, he was subjecting Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi to a tremendous amount of difficulty, right? And pain. If Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi is willing to go to these lengths to be able to do this. So I just want to point out again, we're only being told part of the story, but Lamaisa, it's clear that there's much more that's happening over here. Okay, so Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi is ready to curse the guy. Listen to this. Ki matai shaita, when that moment came, so literally again, it's early morning, and therefore again, Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi is ready to curse the guy. When that moment is about to come, what happens? Ilatye. So Rabbi Shmuel Levi fell asleep. He fell asleep. The Gemara says, Kimati shaita nimnam. He fell asleep. Amar shmamina lav arach ara. So Rabbi Shmuel Levi says it's clear. Lav arach ara means this is not the normal way. Rabbi Shmuel Levi says the fact that I fell asleep, right? He said, Mamish, he's like up. He's up the whole time, just waiting for that one moment. And literally, when that one moment came, he fell asleep. So the fact that he fell asleep in that moment, Rabbi Shmuel Levi says, indicates that what? Kadosh Baruch Hu doesn't want me to do this. It's not what God wants. Not the approach that Kadosh Baruch Hu wants. Right? The tzaddik punishing someone, right? And the tzaddik being the vehicle of misfortune for someone is not good. Kadosh Baruch Hu doesn't want us to go ahead and hurt each other. And even if the other deserves it, it's not. Kadosh Baruch Hu doesn't want us cursing each other. Kadosh Baruch Hu doesn't want us harming each other. Even if the other, even right, Rashi says over here, Einachom l'tzadik shei ma'anish v'lo havele inish l'anish b'shvilo. It's not good for the tzaddik to be the vehicle of punishment, and it's not good for someone to be punished because of the tzaddik. Incredible. Someone was like, Afilu b'mini. And we'll say, and ultimately again, even with a min, right, even with someone who's a heretic, it's good for the tzaddik. It's not good for the tzaddik ultimately again to be the vehicle of divine punishment. Incredible. We'll say, Kofi Ambase 105b, second of the widest lines. On the bottom. So again, the Gemara now says here, when the sun rises and the sun worshippers, go ahead and put their crowns on their head and worship the sun, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gets upset. In other words, the topic, what does that have to do with anything? We're talking about God getting upset. So when does God get upset? When HaKadosh Baruch Hu goes ahead and sees that his creations have forgotten about him and instead serve other creations, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gets upset. Vayakam Bilam Baboker. Suppose he said back to Bilam. Bilam got up in the morning. Vayachavoshes asono. And he went ahead and he saddled his donkey. Okay, so the Gemara said, "We'll say now what's bothering the Gemara about the pasuk over here? Bilam is a chashuv guy. He's important. If he's important, then what should he not be doing? Right? He shouldn't be saddling his own donkey. You have a guy for that. Right? When you reach a certain level. So why is it that Bilam himself is the one who is saddling his donkey? So the Gemara says, Rabbi Shimon Elazar, Ava nevatalas ashura shel gedola. So we'll say this is very interesting. There are certain things that disrupt the natural order of life. One of them is love. Love, right? They say, what is it? Love makes you do crazy things. Love disrupts the natural order of human behavior. Where do we know this from? So the Gemara says, Avram dichsiv, vayashkim Avram baboker. Avram Avinu, the morning of the Akedah, right, got up, and Avram Avinu also saddled his donkey. Avram has a guy, right? Avram has multiple guys. So why is he saddling his own donkey? Because remember, this was on the way to Tziril. He's consumed with love for Yitzchak, consumed with love for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to serve the Ribono Shel Olam. And love makes you do crazy things. Love disrupts the natural order of things. Okay, furthermore, what else disrupts the natural order of things? Sina mivateles shura shel gedula. So we'll say hatred. Hatred also disrupts the natural order of things. Mi bilam shene'emar vayakam bilam baboker. Vayachavoshes asono. Ultimately, again, Bilam got up in the morning and he saddled his own donkey. So we'll say it's interesting. What's the common denominator between love and hate? Right? They're extreme emotions. So what do you see from here? Extreme emotional situations sometimes make us do unrational things. Right? So fascinatingly enough, over here, the irrationality for Avraham Avinu was beautiful because he was saddling his own donkey, consumed by his love for Hashem. Bilam was so consumed by his hatred and animosity for Klal Yisroel that he saddled his own donkey. Now, in Bilam's case, the hatred was all consuming, that even to the point where his behavior was clearly self-destructive and detrimental, he could not stop. Because they've often thought there's one more emotion that really belongs in this line, and that's pachad mekalkel as ashura. Fear. Fear is also a very strong emotion, and fear also disrupts the natural order of things. How many times in life are we faced with incredible opportunities to accomplish great things, but sometimes we are so scared of failure, so scared of the possibility of failure, that we simply don't take it. That doesn't make any sense. Every life endeavor carries with it the possibility of failure, right? Every life initiative carries with it the strong possibility of falling flat on your face and not even going back to where you started, but even being pushed back a couple of steps. But if you can't handle the fear of failure, then you can never progress in life. But yet, so many of us kind of just settle for a life of mediocrity because we're afraid of what may occur if we push ourselves a little bit more. Incredible. Beautiful Gemara. Person should learn Torah. I will say, by the way, I'll just point out something amazing. Just so you should understand, where is it that, in all seriousness, that we have the koach to get up at a really ungodly hour, to be able to learn Torah each and every day, right? And some of us have been doing this for years. Some of us have even been doing this, for more than a decade. Where does that koach come from? It's important to understand. It comes from Vayashkem Avraham Baboker. Vayashkem Avraham Baboker is not rolling out of bed at a normal hour. Vayashkem Avraham Baboker is early, ridiculously early. Ridiculous. Why? To serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Because when you love something, no matter how exhausted you are, right? If you think about it, if your child needs to get picked up at the airport, right? So you're not saying to yourself, you know what, the flight comes in at 6 a.m., so I have to leave my house at 4:30. You're not like, you know what, listen, Shefala, I love you. Get a cup of coffee. I'm going to be there around 9, right? Just hang out a little bit, right? I think, right? We don't do that, right? Okay. Getting a lot of blank expressions over here. Maybe we should do that. Take an Uber, right? In other words, when you love something, even though, again, it's falling on my face, it's not like you're any more rested because you love something. You're literally exhausted. But again, I push myself because I love it. So where do we get that koach? And I will say again, it's important to understand that what it is that we do is like a shtickle abnormal, right? It'd be a little bit more normal to get a little bit more sleep and to be a little bit more rested and to be whole people that aren't like seeing double by 7 o'clock in the evening, right? It would be a little bit. So what's the pshat? Where does it come from? Vayashkem Avraham Baboker. Avram was the first person to say, when you love the Ribono Shel Olam and you love his Torah, get up early. Push yourself to do things that are a little bit abnormal. And I will say every single morning, when we do it, just understand, we are Abrahamic. We're mamish following in the footsteps of the Zayda, because Ava Mekalkel Es Ashura. Love makes people do crazy things. Sometimes in the negative, but for us as Yidden, always in the positive. Incredible. Okay, so the Gemara goes weiter. Person should always learn Torah mitzvahs. Shalol l'shma, even not for the right reasons. Even shalol l'shma, right? Why? Gemara says shalol l'shma, ba l'shma. So let's say because why? Sometimes in life, what's most important is do things for the right reasons. Even if at the end of the day, do the right thing, even if it's for the wrong reasons. Why? Because over time, you'll come to do it for the right reasons. In other words, even if right now I'm not doing things for the right reason, over time I'll come to do it for the right reason. So the Gemara says, "Shebeschar arboim mushtayim karbanos shekrev balak." Listen to this. Zachav yatsa mimenu rus. This is wild. Balak, the king of Moab. Just follow the story. Balak, the king of Moab, who hired Bilam to curse Klal Yisroel. So take away of that. Balak's a bad guy. Balak is a bad guy. But yet he offered up 42 karbanos to the Ribono Shel Olam. It wasn't to idolatry. It was to God. Now, he offered up 42 karbanos because he wanted God to curse Klal Yisroel. But Lamaisa, again, don't get caught up in the details, right? At the end of the day, he served HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Gemara says, in the zechus of his service of Hashem, not for the right reasons. He had a granddaughter by the name of Rus. Rus had a great-grandson by the name of David. And David Emir Hashem will have an enakel by the name of Mashiach. So as I see, where Mashiach comes from? Mashiach comes from Balak. How crazy is that? And Mashiach comes from Balak, who did something holy for all the wrong reasons. He offered up 42 karbanos to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, all for the wrong reason. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, you know what HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to him? Shkoyach. I'm not going to give you what you want. I'm not cursing Klal Yisroel, but look how amazing it is. Sometimes the most beautiful results come from the most unholy of sources. As long as those unholy sources are laced with holiness, right? Sometimes, again, the most incredible results come about even from the most unnoble intentions. But nevertheless, Choshen Baruch Hu takes our avoda, even if it's shalom l'shma, because ultimately great things happen. Incredible. So it goes weiter. I'm Rabbi Yossi Bar Huna. Rus bito shel Eglon ben beno shel Balak melech Moav haya. So here the Gemara just says it. Rus was the daughter of Eglon. Eglon, right, was the king of Moab, right? And Eglon was the great-grandson of Balak, Melech Moab. Good. So Amalei Rabbi Amari. Ksev v'yitev Elokim Shem Shlomo Mishmecha. V'yigdal es kisom es kisecha. So it's beautiful. So this is the Navi talking to David HaMelech. And Hakadosh Baruch says David HaMelech. The Navi says David HaMelech, God will make the name of Shlomo. Now what it sounds like it's saying is God will make the name of Shlomo even greater than your name. And his throne will be even greater than your throne. So the Gemara says, is it appropriate to talk to the king this way, saying that the next king is going to be even greater than you? That doesn't seem to be the greatest amount of respect. In other words, saying that, right, the next king, you're good, but the next king, he's going to be fantastic. Is that the right way to talk? Amarle, me'im kamarle. No. The Navi wasn't saying to David that Shlomo is going to be greater. It means that Shlomo's greatness is going to be like yours. Me'im, like your greatness. I'll tell you why I have to interpret it this way. Tevorach minoshim Yael, Eishes chaver hakeni, minoshim ba'ohel tevurach. So we'll say Yael. Right, Yael, who killed Sisera, helped to cement the victory of Devorah and Barak. So when Devorah praises her, he says, Tevorach minashim Yael, you will be blessed from amongst them in Yael, right, the wife of Chaver Hakeni, minashim ba'ohel Tevorach. From the women, now here's the interesting part. Minashim, what does that mean, minashim ba'al Tevorach? So it would be tempting to translate it as, you will be even greater than the women of the tent. Right? Now, who are the women of the tent? Maninhu, Sara, Rivka, Rachel, Veleah. The Emos. Now, what does it mean? Is the Navi saying that Yael's greater than the women than the Emos? So the Gemara says, Orach Ara Lememer Haki. Could it be that Yael is greater than the Emos? Of course not. Ella Me'in Kamar, Hakanai Me'in Kamar. So no. What the Navi, what Devorah was saying to Yael is, you are almost as great as the Emos. Much in the same way that the Navi is telling David, your son Shlomo will be almost as great as you. So that was his interpretation number one. Other possibilities, Rabbi Yossi Barachoni, listen to this. Bakal Adam Miskane. Both in general, we are jealous of other people. Both says this is a very affirming Gemara. What does this mean? Bakal Adam Miskane means, I am jealous of the success of other people. Both says very affirming Gemara, right? Because as much as the Torah tells us, lo sachmo, don't covet, it is normal and natural to be jealous of other people's success, right? Someone has more money than me. Someone is more successful than me. Someone have more career accomplishments than me. I'm jealous. I'm jealous of people who eclipse me. But the Gemara says there are two exceptions to this. Chutz, mi beno v'talmido. There are two people who you're never jealous of, and two people who you want to be even greater than you. Number one, your son, and number two, your Talmud. Your Talmud, your student. What every parent wants is, I want my child to be better than me. I want them to be better than me. I want them to learn from all of my mistakes, to learn from all of my wrong turns, and I want them to be 100 times better. My Talmud, what does every single Rebbe want? Every single Rebbe wants a Talmud, ultimately, again, who goes ahead and is greater than him, smarter than him, better than him. Because I will say, in both of these cases, the students, right, my son's success feels like my success, and my Talmud's success feels like my success. So the Gemara says, listen to this. The Gemara says, so from son, how do we know that a father wants a son? So that's from Shlomo. That's why, again, according to this interpretation, the Navi was telling David, Shlomo will be greater than you. He will be greater than you. And David's like, great. Right? And Talmidah, from where do we know that? This is Talmidah, Ibais Ema, Vihina Pishnai Beruchacha Elai, Vibais Ema V'yismoch As Yadav Alav Yitzaveu. So one possibility is we learn it from Elisha, right? That ultimately, again, Eliyahu gives Elisha Pishnayim, a double portion of his greatness. So Eliyahu wanted Elisha to be greater, or Moshe to Yoshua. Hashem said to Moshe, place your hand, singular, on Yoshua, and Moshe placed his hands, plural, on Yoshua. So again, both of these Rebbeim wanted their Talmidim to be even greater than them. Incredible. Let's go back there. Vayasim davar b'fi Bilam, but say back to Bilam. So Hashem placed his words in Bilam's mouth. Rabbi Lazar Omer Malach. Rabbi Yoros and Amar Chika. So again, so one opinion says that Hashem placed the malach in Bilam's mouth to prevent Bilam from saying and from cursing the way he wanted to. Other opinion says he placed the hook in Bilam's mouth to prevent Bilam from talking. Incredible. So the Gemara says as follows. Good. So we'll say this is incredible. If you want to know how Bilam wanted to curse Klal Yisroel, look how he blessed Klal Yisroel. In other words, from the blessings you can see the curses. How so? The Gemara says, listen to this. Bilam wanted us to have no more shuls. No more shuls and no more batei medrash. So the Gemara says, what did he say? Matovu ohalecha Yaakov. Right? Again, I was about to say, it's interesting. From whatever he cursed, whatever the curse was, you could see from the curse what he had, you can see from the blessing what he had in mind to curse. So he praises the tents of Klal Yisroel. That means he wanted to destroy the future batei medrash and batei knesios of Klal Yisroel. Incredible. Lo tishra Shechina aleim. Don't let the Shechina rest upon them. Umishkano secha Yisrael. Lo tehei malchus nimshechas. Don't let the monarchy of Klal Yisrael endure. Ki nechalim nitayu. Lo yehelam zeisim ukramim. They shouldn't have any type of vineyards, right? Vineyards or groves. So the Gemara says, Kiganos aleinar. Lo yehei rechan. No, their scent literally shouldn't waft. Just like that word, right? Shouldn't waft. In other words, that their scent, it shouldn't have. What does that mean? That their scent shouldn't waft. That it shouldn't have an impact on the world. So the Gemara says, "Ka'alim nita Hashem lo Ka'alim nita Hashem lo yelahem malachim balekoma." Their kings should not have stature. Ka'arazim alei mayim lo yelahem melech ben melech. They should not have a dynastic monarchy. Yizal mayim midalyo lo tiyem achusan sholat as beumos. Their monarchy should not have any control over the nations of the world. Vizaru b'mayim rabim lo tiyeh azza malchusan. Their monarchy should not be strong. Vayorem me'agag malko lo tehei emas malchusan. No one should fear their monarchy. Vatinase malchuso. Rabbi Abba Bar Kana says as follows: Kulam chazru leklala. Now, both saying, here's what's incredible. As much as Bilam's curses did not come true, they didn't come true at the time that he said them. But they have come true throughout Jewish history. They have, right? In other words, that there are different periods of time, and throughout different periods of time, Bilam's curses did come true. Except for one. Klal Yisroel, we've never lost our shuls and our batei medrash. Isn't that incredible? There's never been a period of Jewish history without Yidden having shuls and batei medrash. Absolutely incredible. Shnei Amar, Vayapoch Hashem Elokecha Lecha Es HaKlala Lebracha, Ki Yahevcha Hashem Elokecha Klala Velo Klalos. Ultimately, again, so most of the curses at some point in time did come true. But the one where Bilam said, you'll never have batei medrash, you'll never have batei knesios, that never came true. Throughout the entirety of our history, we were never without batei knesios and batei midrashos. Absolutely, our Rebbe, every single week, we learn the Piazetzna, right? The Rebbe maintained a clandestine base medrash and clandestine shul in the Warsaw Ghetto throughout the years that he was there, right? That's Ish Kodesh, the drushes that he gave. So again, can you imagine this? Even literally when we're in Gehenna. So all the other curses came true. But a yid without a beis medrash, a yid without a shul, that never happened in the entirety of our history. Absolutely incredible. Let's go weiter. Gemara says, Am Rabbi Shmuel Silber, Am Rabbi Yochanan, Yonasan, Ma'itich sev ne'emanim pesei ohev, v'ne'etaros neshikos sonein. So we'll say, so literally translated, what does it mean? Essentially, good are the injuries given to you by someone who you love, and despised are the kisses of an enemy. What does that mean? So the Gemara says, Tova klala shekila achi ashiloni es Yisrael, yosem ibracha shebircham bilam arasha. I will say this is wild. So ultimately, again, the klala, the curse that we got from achi ashiloni, right? We learned, remember again, achi ashiloni, we learned about him. Where do we see him? Just a few days ago, where do we see him? Where do we see him? Excellent. By Yeravam ben Nevat. Right? He was the one who took the garment, tore it into 12 pieces, gave Yeravam 10 of the pieces, says, you are now the melech over 10 tribes. Achi ashiloni. So what does he mean? Achi ashiloni cursed us. Now, what it means he cursed us is, he was delivering verbal rebuke on behalf of God. So essentially, better to get the quote-unquote curse, the rebuke of Achi Ashiloni, than the bracha of Bilam. We'll say this is an incredible Gemara. How so? This is an overwhelming Gemara. Listen to this. Here we go. Achi Ashiloni, kilo es Yisrael b'kana. When Achi Ashiloni cursed us, and again I will say curse is a strong word. He's delivering rebuke. Okay, but we're going to call it a klala. When he cursed us, he referred to Klal Yisroel as a reed. As a reed, a kana. Listen to the Shnei Amar. V'hi kashem es Yisrael kasher yonot hakana b'mayim. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu will literally strike Klal Yisrael just like a reed is stricken in the water. So we'll say now, what does this mean? So why does he compare us to a reed? Get ready for this. This is incredible. So first of all, a reed always stands by water, right? V'gizel machlif, and a reed regenerates. So it's always found by water. It regenerates. Shrashav merubin. It has a lot of roots. And afilu kol ruchos sheba'olam ba'os v'noshenvo. Now what happens with a reed? A reed is soft. Because it's soft, all of the winds of the world could blow against it. And what happens to the reed? Eino mazizin oso mikoma. So what happens to the reed is, the reed could be totally blown over, even laying on its side, but it's never uprooted. It's never uprooted. So ultimately, again, the reed just sways with the wind. But as soon as the wind is finished, what happens to the reed? It stands right back up in place. Yet, interestingly enough, Bilam blessed us, and he called us a cedar tree. Now, what's the chap with the cedar tree? So first of all, the cedar doesn't grow by water, right? And furthermore, the cedar has a very shallow root system. Once you cut down a cedar tree, it does not go ahead and regenerate. And now, the cedar is a very strong tree, and therefore all of the winds in the world could blow against it, and they won't move it. But once the southern wind goes ahead and blows against the cedar tree, miyad akraso v'avchaso alpanav. So apparently, again, while all the winds can't do anything to the cedar tree, the southern wind does have the ability to uproot it and put it on its face. Not only that, going back to the reed for just a moment, furthermore, I will say the reed is privileged to be fashioned into a quill, ultimately to be used to write a Sefer Torah. So I will say, so therefore again, better to get the curse of Achi Ashiloni, right, than to get the bracha of Bilam. I will say it's important just to take a moment. In that bracha of Achi Ashiloni is something incredibly profound. Everything we need to be successful is contained in this Gemara. Number one, to be like the reed. Number one, plant yourself by water. Water, we'll say, what does water represent? Water is Torah. Water is also chesed. Water is Torah, water is chesed. Let's say if a person wants to sustain themselves in life, there are two things you need to do. You need to be constantly embedded in life of not just learning Torah, but living Torah. Furthermore, you cannot be a person who only exists for yourself. I must become a person who is a Baal Chesed. I must become a person ultimately, again, who is rooted in a life of giving and doing for the other. Furthermore, both say life is filled with winds. Life is filled with circumstances that we don't like and we don't want. There are two different ways that you could deal when the winds of unwanted circumstances blow against you. So number one, you could just fall down. You could just say, woe is me. Woe is me. I didn't want this. I didn't plan this. I don't like this. Zelo fair. Whatever you want to say, right? And you could just give up. You could just give up. You're not happy with the way life is going. Give up. Lay down. Lay down, play dead. You could do that, or you could go with it. You could roll with it. Just lean into it. And the wind's going to blow me here, and the wind's going to blow me there, and life circumstances have a way of moving me all different kinds of places. But one thing I know with absolute certainty, which is, when the winds die down, I'll spring back. I'll be okay. I'll be okay. right? Again, this is a tumultuous period of life, and in tumultuous periods of life, we are pushed down this way, pushed down that way. Tumultuous circumstances in life absolutely take their toll on us. But one thing I know, that when it dies down, and it will, I'll slowly but surely spring back. Why? Because I've never been uprooted. Because once again, going back to the beginning, as long as I keep myself rooted by water, the water of Torah, the water of Chesed, my root system is strong. And if my root system is strong, nothing and no one, no set of circumstances, no set of winds, no matter how debilitating they may be, have the ability to uproot me from where I am situated. Incredible. Incredible. Furthermore, what's the last quality of the kulmus? So you know what the crown accomplishment of the kulmus really is? That it becomes the quill that writes the Sefer Torah. At the end of the day, and that will say so profound on so many different levels. The Sefer Torah represents, again, the book of our accomplishments. At the end of the day, what's your book of accomplishments? What is the personalistic Sefer Torah that you are writing? But the chap of a Sefer Torah. We'll say, what's the beauty of writing a Sefer Torah? It doesn't just benefit you, it benefits others. Kind of going full circle. That we started with the water, we end with the Sefer Torah. The real hallmark of your accomplishments is ultimately what you're able to do for the other. While it's very nice to be the root, to be the reed, and all these beautiful things, at the end of the day, what is it that you're contributing to Klal Yisroel? What is it that you're doing? What is your grand accomplishment ultimately is the personalistic Sefer Torah you write for yourself, but that Sefer Torah ultimately has to be able to be used by others as well. Incredible. Let's go back there. So the Gemara says as follows: Vayaras Hakini. So still back to Bilam. Vayaras Hakini. Vayisa Mishalo. Amrlo Bilam li Yisro. Kini lo haisimana ba'oseitz. That's what. Now here's what's interesting. So apparently Bilam, the Gemara says, meets Yisro. Now Yisro and Bilam knew each other, right? They were going to see in this moment. They knew each other from the Egypt days. That's how they knew each other. So Bilam says to Yisro, what are you doing here? Now Yisro was with Klal Yisroel. So he says, Yisro, what are you doing over here? What's going on over here? After all, weren't you involved in that same discussion in Egypt, which we'll get to in just a moment? So the Gemara says, who positioned you, who planted you over here with Moshe Rabbeinu, with Klal Yisroel? But say there were three people who were involved in that council. Now, what council? When Rashi points out there, when Paro said, when Paro said, throw the Jewish babies into the Nile, there were three people involved in that decision, or three people involved in that discussion. Who were they? Eluhain, Bilam, Eov, and Yisro. Okay. Bilam, Sheyatz Nerak. Bilam said to Paro, yes, I agree. I vote yes. Bilam ultimately was killed. Now again, he wasn't killed until much later, right? Remember again, well, not much later. He's killed in the desert, right? So Bilam Sheyatz Nerak. Eov, Sheshasak, Nidam B'Yisurin. Wow. Eov, who was silent. He didn't object, but he also didn't acquiesce, right? He didn't agree. He was punished with suffering. I will say, isn't that wild? So I'll say, the whole story of Eov, is the story of unimaginable suffering that can't be traced to a source, right? The whole chap of Eov is like tzaddik v'ralo, that the righteous suffer sometimes in unimaginable ways that we can't even understand. It's fascinating to see over here that at least according to this stream in Chazal, it wasn't for nothing. Eov's suffering was a punishment. Well, why was it a punishment? Eov had an opportunity to go ahead and stop this situation. He had an opportunity to stop it, right? And he didn't. And when you have the opportunity to step in and prevent something bad from happening, and you fail to do so, you are complicit. So Eov was complicit with Paro, and therefore ultimately he is punished with suffering. What happened? Yisro shebarach. Yisro ran away. Because Yisro ran away, Zachu b'nei banav leishe b'lishkas hagozis. This is wild. Because he ran away, Yisro was zocha to have grandchildren who were members of the Sanhedrin. Shnamar mishpachos sofrim yoshvei yavis tartaim shematim sukasayim hema kenim abayim machmas avi beis racham uksiv ubnei keni chosi Moshe alo meir hatmarim. So we'll say, isn't that wild? So Yisro was silent, and therefore Yisro ran away, and because he ran away, he was zocha to have children who were members of the Sanhedrin. We'll say, you'll say, what's the question? What's the burning question you have? What's the burning question? Why didn't he object? What do you mean? Why do you get credit for running away? It's cowardly. Why stand your ground and object? So understand. Yisro was smart enough. What did he understand? He already lost. Right? How do we know he already lost? Right? It was a tribunal of three. All right. It was a tribunal of four. It was Paro, Yisro, Yisro, Eov, Bilam. Paro was in, right? So Bilam was in. So Eov was silent, a non-vote, which means that Yisro already understood, I don't have a voice anymore. So we'll say, and this is a tremendous yisod. When we see something that is broken, we absolutely have to try our best to try to fix it. But there are circumstances in life that are very broken, and what a person has to do with themselves in that situation, you have to be masalik. You have to remove yourself from it. You can't fix every problem. And again, sometimes certain situations are so toxic that Lamaisa, again, it can't be fixed. Instead, again, someone has to be removed from the situation because they themselves may be the source of toxicity, or ultimately, again, they're just maybe so much, I got to get out. So ultimately, again, it's not Yisro running away as an act of cowardice. It's Yisro recognizing I don't have the ability to affect change in this situation, and therefore I'm removing myself from the equation. Incredible. Let's go back to Vayisa Mashal V'Yomer. Oy mi yichya mishumo kel. So Rabbi Yochanan. Oy lo le'uma shetimtza b'shash chashbarach osa pinyon lebanav. So that's incredible. So Bilam was saying, woe to the nation who gets in the middle of Hashem and Klal Yisroel when Hashem is redeeming His people. In other words, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu redeems us, there's so much passion between Klal Yisroel and HaKadosh Baruch Hu that ultimately don't get in the middle of that. So the Gemara says, listen to this. The Gemara says, so mi matal ksusa bein labi lelevia b'shashin iskakin ze im ze. So apparently, again, it would be the same thing as like trying to throw a garment in between a lion and a lioness when they're trying to mate. So apparently not a good idea to get in the middle of that, right? So, and even if you go ahead and you place a garment there, the garment's not going to stop them from doing what they want to do. And the Gemara says, good. Vitzim miyad kisim, amarav libun aspir. That's the name of the place. V'anu ashur v'avo ever ad ashur katle miktal mikhan ve'ilach b'shad shibudei. So Klal Yisroel ultimately again one day will spread out. They'll conquer a vast land. Up until Asher they'll kill. From there and afterwards they will enslave. Hineni holich lami l'cha yotzcha shayasa amazeh la'amecha. So okay, now incredible Gemara over here. Incredible Gemara. So now Bilam realizes, fast forwarding a little bit, right? Bilam realizes he can't curse the Jewish evil. Not going to work. As they say, zelo ole. It's not working. So therefore Bilam says to Balak, look, I can't curse them, but let me give you an eitzah about what you can do to just be done with this people. Let me give you the eitzah. All right, so what? So Bilam, now the lashon of Bilam is, he says, Sheyasa ha'amazeh la'amecha. So the Gemara says, Amecha la'am hazeh. Why should it be your nation? It should be this nation. It's like a person who curses himself, but ultimately again hinges the curse on others. All right, Amar lahem. So what's Bilam supposed to say now again? The curse is not working. Bilam says, Balak, here is my last piece of Eitzah. This is like the Poland case of, what is it? Poland case of emergency, right? This is the fire alarm. This is what you do to Klal Yisroel if you want to destroy them. Amar lahem. Eloheim shal elu sonezima. You know what God hates more than anything? God hates immorality. Right? We've seen, by the way, over here, immorality is not the thing that Hashem Baruch Hu hates most. What does Hashem hate most? We saw this. What does Hashem hate most? Dishonesty. Disingenuity. Right? That's Hashem Baruch Hu hates more than. Hashem Baruch Hu hates people who just are dishonest. Hashem Baruch Hu can deal with any and every avera. He really can. What he can't deal is when we're not honest with ourselves, we're not honest with each other. That's what he can't deal with. But in any event, nevertheless, immorality is a very close second. He doesn't like immorality. So Bilam says like this. Now the Jews, this is fascinating. The Jews of that generation, they really liked linen garments. I said they had a thing for linen garments. Now Rashi points out over here, why did they like linen garments? So Rashi says it's what they wore in Egypt. Apparently, again, it's light, breathable material, good for all seasons, right? So Lamaisa, they really liked linen garments. Okay, that appetite for. So what should you do? Listen to this. The Gemara says, Bo vasyacha eitza. So Bilam says, here's what you should do. And Bilam lays out the whole plan for Balak. Here's what you do. Aselim kilayim. So go make a little bit of a market. Remember again, the Jews are camped in the desert. So Bilam, just see, I have the imagery over here. So the Jews are camped in the desert. Bilam says to Balak, look, set up like a shuk, like a marketplace, right by the Jewish encampment. Okay? And go ahead. Vahoshiv bahen zonos. Staff the shuk with harlots, with zonos. Okay? Zikina mibachutz, v'yalda mibifnim. An older harlot on the outside, and a younger harlot on the inside. Okay? V'yimachru lahen klei pishtan. And again, this marketplace should sell one thing. Right? linen garments. Now we're going to see it's really two things. It's linen garments and wine, right? We're going to see those. That wine comes in a little bit later on. Right, so sell linen garments, and what happens? Well, it's incredible. Aslam kilayim, right? So what happened? So Balak listened, and they set up a marketplace. Aslam kilayim mehar sheleg ad beis hayishimos. V'oshem and zonos zekinim mebachutz v'yaldim mebifnim. Okay, so here was the plan. This is incredible Gemara. Ubishar sheYisrael ochlin v'shosin usmechen v'yotzin l'tayel b'shok. So we'll say, so now what happens? Klal Yisroel, we're minding our own business. We're sitting in our encampment. So we'll say, what happens? What happens? Ochlin, shosin, usmechen. We'll say, do you know, sometimes you think about our time in the deserts. Do you know what happened like on a typical evening in the deserts? Ochlin, shosin, usmechen. We fabranged, right? Klal Yisroel, you ate a little something, you had someone, you made a l'chaim. We were happy with each other, we're happy with Moshe Rabbeinu, we're happy with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. Life was good. We're on our way to Eretz Yisrael, we're on our way to Eretz Yisrael, and mamish again, that's life was good. So what happened? Dinner was over. You take a little shpatzir. Where do you take the shpatzir to? Where do you go? They went to the shuk. So they're walking around the marketplace. Those adal b'shuk. Omeres la zakena. So the older harlots, remember again, where were the older harlots stationed? Right? They were on the outside. So what happened? Zakena, iyata mevakish kli pishtan. So the Gemara says, uzakena omeres la b'shava. So what happens? So the older harlot would say, oh, you're in the market for, you Jews, you're in the market for linen garments. Good, I'm selling it for X. Right? For X. Right? Retail. Right? Meanwhile, what would happen? V'yalda omeres lo bepachos. Now, meanwhile, the younger harlot, who was so essentially they were two what's the right term? Like stalls, right? So the older harlot would be on the outside, the younger harlot would be on the inside. The older harlot would say, "I'll say the kli pishtan retail." The younger one would call out, come to me, right? I'll sell you wholesale. Okay, so we're Jews. We know where we're going, right? So obviously, again, so we go wholesale. This happened. Now, we'll say, nothing happened in the beginning. Just purchasing of linen garments. Shtayim v'shalosh pamim. This happened 2 or 3 times. V'achakach omeres lo hariat kiben bayis shev bar liatzmeich. What happens? So now, after a couple of times this happened, so a rapport. Now again, we'll say they have no idea that these women are harlots. Right? Again, remember, up until now, this is business. So after this happened a couple of times, so the younger harlots who ran the businesses on the inside, so they would say to the Jewish men, listen, you've come here already a couple of times, come inside, right? We're doing business for a while, come inside, come sit a little bit. And she would have a jug of good Ammonite wine, which apparently, again, was very strong. And what happens? Now we'll say, this is before the wine of Gentiles was prohibited. So therefore, again, there was nothing wrong with drinking the wine of a non-Jew. So he would have a glass of wine. So she would ask the Jewish customer, would you like a drink of wine? Kevan sheshasa boerbo. So we'll say he said yes, he'd have a glass of wine. And I will say, what happens after a glass of strong wine? The desires could be unleashed. Right? So it was just, again, I will say, it's very important to understand the context of this was purely transactional. I mean, like merchandise-wise transactional. That was it. And it was that glass of wine that kind of became the gateway for everything. So Amrullah, Hashmieli. So now what happened at this point in time, the Midianite women would proposition the Jewish men. So what happened? So she would take out. The woman would say to the Jewish man, "I'm willing to have relations with you." Just one little detail. You see this little. She would take out the idol from inside her clothing. A little idol, like a pestle, not a big one, just like a pocket one, right? And she would say, "Just do me a favor, just before we move to the next step over here, if you wouldn't mind just going ahead and worshiping this idol." Our boss is incredible. Amrullah, halo Yehudi ani. I say, isn't this incredible? The world doesn't understand the Kedusha of a Jew. Right? So the Yid would say, what are you talking about? It's like, I was like, and by the way, I just want to point out, this guy obviously isn't the frummest guy in the world. Art School's not writing his biography. Remember again, right? What is he about to do? This guy is ready to go, right? He's ready to have relations with this Midianite prostitute. So this is not like a gun olam over here. But yet, when she wants him to worship idolatry, he's like, what? Yehudi ani. Really? You're about to engage. You're about to engage this woman. Right? I know what I'm about to do. But just because I'm about to do that doesn't mean that I'm going to worship idolatry. Right? Those are worlds apart. Yehudi ani. So what does she say to him? Amralo, come on, don't make more of it than it has to be. Klum mevakish mimcha ela pior. The good news. This is Baal Pa'ar. So all you need to do is defecate, right? That's all you really need to do, right? Just a normal bodily function, right? So just go ahead, just relieve yourself. It's good for the body, it's healthy. So really, anyway, you're happy, Idol's happy, I'm happy, then we'll all be happy, right? And it's going to be fantastic. So just do a little defecation over here and we're good to go. Now, the Jewish man didn't realize that the way to worship Baal Pa'ar is through defecation. See, he just thinks that this is a really strange woman, right? But at the same time, he really wants her. So, okay, if that's what it takes, then okay, then I guess okay, right? So Lamais again, say defecates, okay. Now after he defecates, she says, oh, by the way, one more thing. I need you to repudiate the authenticity of the Torah of Moshe Rabbeinu. Now I will say, at this point in time, our Yid is really far into this, right? He drank wine, he defecated, right? So pretty much like, he's in, right? He's in. So at this, I will say at a certain point in time, you've made so many wrong turns, and you look back at those turns, right? And you're like, oh my gosh. So at this point in time, he's so far in with this woman that Lamaisa, he goes in and he complies. Shne'emar, Hema bo'u Baal Pa'ar v'inaznu leboshes v'yishkutzim ba'avam. So ultimately, and this is how it started. I will say, I want to point out two things from the story. Number one, do you understand, by the way, to what lengths they went, this is a complex scheme, right? And this is time. You know what this is? This is real anti-Semitism. You have to, to kill someone, like chip-chop. Okay, we can kill someone, right? In other words, you pick up a knife, you do what you have to do. It's a couple of moments, right? And that's it, it's done. This is time. This is resources. This is planning. This is hatred. This is what hate, when you hate someone, so if I can hate someone enough to smack him across the face, because again, it's episodic, it's there, he's there, I'm there, we're arguing, okay, we're done. I'm not going to do that, but I'm just saying you can understand that, but you're tying up resources, you're sacrificing a generation of women, there's a lot of resources going into Jew hating. That's anti-Semitism. I will say, by the way, this is what we see this, but no, okay, we have to finish. Let's go back to this. Well, it also tells you, by the way, that the pathway to sin is often paved with very innocuous activities. It started with shopping. By the way, you could use this one. Shopping is a gateway activity, right, to Avodah Zarah. Right? And what are you going to do? You're going to argue? You're going to argue with that? You're just going to say, it's not me. It's Sanhedrin Kovav. Bad things happen when Jews shop, right? So again, so I'll say it's fascinating just to see that Steve, that one goes on the list. Bad things happen when Jews shop, right? So I'll say, I just want to point out that it started, now again, there's nothing wrong with shopping. They're buying Klei Pishtan. What is interesting about say is, I want to point out, how many Klei Pishtan does one person need? Right? Why are they coming back to the marketplaces multiple times? Remember again about say, they didn't even need any dry cleaning in the Midbar. Kadosh Baruch Hu did everything for that. So, Bosai, if they were coming back multiple times, what does that show you? Excess of materialism. You don't need that many sets of Klei Pishtan. You don't need that many articles of clothing. No one needs a wardrobe like that. And if you just keep buying and buying and buying and purchasing, then your focus is shifted. Again, enjoy the material world. Enjoy materialism. But don't let it become your focus. The moment it becomes my focus is the moment that I am now opened up to a whole bunch of other things. So overindulgence in the material leads to what? A glass of wine with a woman you should not be having a glass of wine with. And not because she's a zona. There's a very simple reason. You should not be having a glass of wine with any woman who is not your wife, your mother, your sister, or your daughter. If they are not directly related to you, you should not be having a glass of wine with them. It's a simple math. Simple math. Bad things happen when men and women who are not married to each other or directly related to one another share alcoholic beverages. It's not good. It's not good. So you see again, over excess in materialism led ultimately again to glass of wine with people that you should not be having wine with. And then what happens? Then Abba say, avodah zara, immorality, all this stuff. And where did it start with? What did it all start with? It started with too many linen garments. Too many linen garments. I will say, this is the most important. This is why we have to live life with such mindfulness and such awareness. Every action has consequences, and every action is a gateway to something that follows it, and even something that is inherently non-sinful, but it might not be the right thing to put me in the direction I need to get to in life. All right, let's go weiter. Vayeshev Yisrael b'shitim. Rabbi Elazar Omer, Shitim Shema. The name of the place is Shitim. Rabbi Shua Omer, Shines Asku b'divrei shtos. No, it's called Shitim because again, it was a place in Klal Yisroel, ultimately again, that we involved in frivolity. Shtos. Vatikrana la'am l'zirchei Eloheihen. Rabbi Elazar Omer, Arumos pagu bahen. That literally, again, the Midianite women, they didn't even wear clothing. They just didn't wear clothing. In other words, they were so bent on just enticing the Jewish men to sin that like, even debased themselves to the point just to get the men to sin. Rabbi Shua Omer, Shenasu Kulam Balei Karyon. Obviously, the men, so I'll say, when the men seen the women like this, again, it became a Bal Kari. All there were seminal emissions. My Lashon Refidim, Rabbi Elazar Omer, Refidim Shema. The name of the place is Refidim. Rabbi Shua Omer, Sharipu Asma Divrei Torah. Ultimately, again, they became weakened in their relationship with Torah. Shnei Amar, Lo Hifnu Avos Albana Mirifyon Yadayim. Rabbi Yochanan, Chomakum Shnemar Vayeshev, Ela Lashon Tsar. So I'll say, wherever the Torah used Lashon of Vayeshev is always a Lashon of Tsar, a Lashon of difficulty. Shnei Amar, Vayeshev Yisrael b'shitim, Vayachal am Liznos, Abanos Moav, Vayeshev. So that's our story over here by Bilam. Vayeshev Yaakov Beretz Migurei Aviv Beretz Canaan, Vayavi Yosef Zivas Samra Labahem. So we'll say ultimately Vayeshev Yaakov, the sale of Yosef. V'nemar Vayeshev Yisrael Beretz Goshen, Vayikvu Yimei Yisrael Lamos. Right, Yaakov Avinu settled in Goshen. Yaakov Avinu died not so long after. Vayeshev Yehuda v'Yisrael levetach ishtachas gafno v'tachas teinaso. Vayakam Hashem l'satan shlomas hadat ha'adomi mizera hamelech hu be'edom. So again, whenever you see the word Vayeshev, as much as Vayeshev sounds like a lashon of like tranquility, usually it foreshadows something negative that is going to happen. As Bilam. So we'll say ultimately, Klal Yisroel kills all of the kings of Midian, and they also killed Bilam along with the kings of Midian. Now says the Gemara. So the Gemara says, my boy Hassam, why was Bilam with the kings of Midian? Why was he there? So So we'll say, because Bilam went to collect his honorarium. Now, why did Bilam get an honorarium? After all, again, he didn't end up cursing the people. Because we'll say, he did something better than cursing. What did he do? He devised the strategy to lure us into a web of immorality, which cost the lives of 24,000 Jews. So Bilam went to the kings of Midian and said, Chevra, pay up. I delivered you dead Jews, right? I went ahead and caused Klal Yisroel to suffer this terrible misfortune. You give me my money. And what ends up happening? He goes to collect payment. And what happens? He goes to collect payment and he ends up dead, killed by Klal Yisroel. Amar Zotra Bar Tuvia, Amarav, Henu Darmi Inshi. This is what people, the famous adage, Gamla alzla lemibai karni, Udni dahavile gizizan mine. So that's the famous, everybody knows this saying, right? The camel goes to get a pair of horns and ends up losing its ears. Again, I will say once again, much better in the original Aramaic, right? But you understand. In other words, the camel wants something else. Camel has big right to. What does the camel want? Camel wants. So everybody wants horns. Who doesn't want horns? No one messes with you when you have horns. And the camel, in his quest for horns, ends up losing his own ears. Right? Bilam wanted something that was beyond his reach, and he ended up losing everything, namely his life. That's Bilam ben Be'or HaKosem. And they killed Bilam ben Be'or, the sorcerer. The Gemara says, Kosem, he wasn't a sorcerer, he was a Navi. Navi, why does he call him a sorcerer? Rabbi Yochanan b'tchila Navi l'basof Kosem. In the beginning, he was a Navi. But then I will say, sorcerer is a lesser position than a Navi. See, he was a Navi, but because of a series of bad choices, ultimately, again, he's just labeled as a sorcerer. Misagni v'shilti havai aizon legavri nagri. The woman, the princess, who was once married to royalty, ultimately committed adultery with a laborer. In other words, we'll say it is bad for the princess to commit adultery. It's even worse when she commits adultery with like a menial laborer. So again, Bilam was a Navi. But ultimately, again, he degraded himself so badly that he's simply known as a sorcerer. Hargu b'nei Yisrael al chaleim. Amarav shekaimu bo arba misos skila streifa harag v'chenek. I will say, when the Jews killed Bilam, they killed him in a way that he suffered all 4 forms of execution. Skila, Sreifa, Hereg, Bechenek. Now, how do they do this? Rashi points out there was something amazing. They hanged him. Right? They hanged him. Right? So ultimately, again, I will say, listen to this. So Rashi points out they hanged him underneath the fire. So what happened? By hanging him, ultimately, again, that's Chenek. Then they decapitated him. That's saif, right? That's harag. That's right. That's saif. That's the sword, right? Then he falls down into the fire. That's skila, because skila is pushing a person off a roof, and then he burnt in the fire. That's sreifa. They execute him with all 4 forms of misa. How old was Bilam when he died? How old was he when he died? So the Gemara says, so again, so interestingly enough, Rabbi Chanina said, I don't know, but here's what I would surmise. Since the pasuk says, Anshe dam mirma, deceitful people, lo yechetzu yimehem, do not even live to half of their life. So we'll say a general lifespan is 70 years. Half of that life would be 35, which means Risham don't even live to 35. So Rabbi Chanina says, I would guess, bar tlasin utlashnin or bar tlasin v'arba. He was either 33 or 34, some age right below 35. So Amalei Shaper, the min said to Rabbi Chanina, Shkoyach, Shaper kamet, lididi chazili pinkasei, to Bilam, I have Bilam's journal. I got a copy of his journal, and in the journal I saw Havikasiv Bey, Bar Tlasin Utlas, Shnin Bilam Chagira, Kad Katel Yasei Pinchas Listara, or a book about Bilam, and in it it's written that Bilam was killed by Pinchas at the age of 33 years old. So Bilam was 33 when he died. Ultimately, again, a little bit less, have less. All right, we have to stop over here. We got TALMUD base, right? Let's again, we move the goalposts every day. Right, today we got TALMUD base. Let's say, Shkoyach, everyone. Shkoyach, tremendous. Good, yeah.
Hello, everyone. Can I have your attention? Again, I'm so sorry. We have to be respectful of our neighbors. We sent out